And I think we are now live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gavra Racing GT7 Championship. We're here for Season 9, round number 1 at Mount Panorama for the Australian Grand Prix. My name's Natty, your commentator for the season, and joining me is someone who needs no introduction to Gavra, a former GT Group B champion, my former Haas teammate in the Super League. It's Aston F1, everyone. How are you doing?
I'm loving that intro. Absolutely brilliant. It's an honour to be here, sitting in the commentary booth like Paul de Resta. You know what? No, I can't lie. Mount Panorama, real life league racing. It's pretty much always good racing. So I'm looking forward to this. I see a certain Marcus Armstrong is on the front row of the grid, so this should be pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to this.
And yeah, that's, as you say, Marcus Armstrong on the front row. Let's go through the qualifying grid for today's race. It says I'm in first place on pole position, but that is not true. Piero did, in fact, get pole position with by 3/10, I believe it was, a 2 minute something, point something. Can't actually remember the qualifying time. I didn't screenshot the results. How useless am I? Then I qualified in second place, and it's Dutchy in third place. Tiger in fourth, starts ahead of fifth place Tim. On the third row of the grid, alongside the Season 1 and 6 champion, Toussaint. In seventh place, Wolfie ahead of former Group B rival Dan. Fortman's in ninth place, starts ahead of the returning Napula in 10th place, a name often associated with Super League titles, now giving his go in GT racing. And it's the current Weekend League champion, Ben Roberts, who starts at the back of the pack in 11th place for his first GT race as well. Aston doesn't know the result of this race, which makes it even more exciting for him. So do you have any pre-race comments or predictions you'd like to make?
Well, first of all, I was having a little cheeky look on the grid. You know, I have to say, I do quite like the fact there's quite a nice variety of cars. You got cheeky Jimmy in seventh place in the Toyota FT1. You got some McLarens and BMWs. You got Subaru as well. It's a nice little variation. It's quite good. Quite often you see in a Group 3 racing, and I think personally, I'm gonna watch out for Tiger Assassin because he once set a top 10 fastest lap time round this very track in a Toyota Tundra. Now, admittedly, a Tundra Group 3 car is a bit different, but you gotta know the track to be doing times like that. So I'm gonna be watching out for Tiger, and let's see what happens.
Tiger does have a good record at this track, a couple of wins, but a couple of takeouts as well. And a couple of seasons ago, hit the famous teammate crash at turn 2 with Toussaint. Teammates once again this season in the silver and lime yellow McLaren. But without further ado, we're about to get this race underway, and because we're in the replay mode, we're going to try and time this to perfection. So we're going to go have a countdown from 3 and get this race underway. So 3, 2, 1, let's go. The 5 red lights build to 23 laps here at Mount Panorama for the Australian Grand Prix. All 5 lights are on. And we go racing here in Bathurst for the Australian Grand Prix. Look at that, Dutchy off to a flying start.
Dutchy just
squeezes
his way
through the middle.
Into turn 1. Jesus Christ, I was not expecting that. You got Marcus Armstrong. Oh, who's been pushed off? Oh, Dan's falling down. He's down to 10th place, only ahead of Ben Roberts, 44. And it's all looking very juicy at the front and at the back. We've got Ben Roberts trying to fight Dan for 10th place. But Natty, what's going on at the front?
Meanwhile, up front, myself down the inside of Play Dutchy, off to a good start for the team 1 and 2. Tim trying to move on Fortman's, but Fortman's gets the switch back to Toussaint up into 4th place, Tiger up into 5th, Wolfie up into 6th place, so a good start from him. Tim dropping down into 8th place after making contact with Dan, who's down into 11th, but still onto the back of Ben Roberts as we're approaching nearly halfway through the opening lap, and it's Natty who leads this race from his teammate Play Dutchy in 2nd place.
Very good start there by Natty. Dutchy, that was a very good start from him. I have to admit, barges way into the lead momentarily, down to 2nd, but still up from his original starting position, and he's already starting to have a little bit of a gap behind Tim. Seems quite interesting there. You've got 4 mans who's sticking quite close, and you've got Knife, Ben Roberts 10th, and Dan bringing up the rear, but in a very, very solid position. Let's see if we can get into the top 10.
Yeah, the first top 11 all still fairly close to one another after the approaching the end of the first lap. Piero not with the start he'd have hoped for, but maybe he can gain another position on play. Dutchy down in towards turn 21, but doesn't decide to send one. And Dutchy maintains second place.
That was a good little defensive manoeuvre from Dutchy. Just slightly closed the door there, not too violently. All fair in this racing. Piero having another look there, but just thinking of the long game. He can see the lead well in his sights. He's looking. It looks like he might go for another move on the inside. Nope, just a little cheeky look. Slots back in line behind Dutchy. He's a pretty fast shot. Oh, he's lost it a little bit. And there we go. We've got Maynard, multi-GT champion, up into third place, also in the McLaren. Good start from him. And you've got Tiger Assassin, who's at the top 10 fastest lap time in the Tour Tundra. He's in a solid 5th place, also has the leader within sight.
It's a stat that you're not going to forget, ladies and gentlemen, by the end of this race, with Tiger's top 10 Tundra lap time here at Mount Panorama, currently in 5th place. The car between him and his teammate Piero, not with a good start to this race. Started on pole position and has dropped down to 4th place after the first 2 laps. So maybe the McLaren starts maybe struggling to get up to grips on its tyres, although we have seen Toussaint make up a couple of positions. And look at that, ex-Natty G, myself, has absolutely dropped Play Dutch in the opening 2 laps. But Aston, taking a leaf out of your book, I'm on the soft compound tyres.
Oh, I love to see that. See, this is what I kept saying multiple times. If you just do what everyone else is going to do, it's going to be boring. You might as well change your strategy for the TV coverage. And look at that. Fresh air, on his zone, on his ones. Doesn't have to worry about anyone, any dirty air, nothing. Look at that. Perfect lead there. Dutchy not too far behind. You've got a nice little guy for the podium. You got Jimmy. I almost read his name out. You know what? No, we'll just say Jimmy for now. This is in 6th place as Tim is right behind him. Now that Subaru hasn't got the best straight line speed. However, this is Tim one about a flying fin, diving into the inside. Oh, that was a good move from Tim. Jimmy just slightly broke himself there. Down into 7th place, but still decent start from him. Got a bit of a gap between 4-mans.
Yeah, it's about a second between Wolfie and Fortmans. Looks like Napula, Dan and Ben Roberts forming almost like a second group in the early phase of this race. Meanwhile, up front, Piero has gotten back ahead of Toussaint into a podium position. So the McLaren, or one McLaren, drops down into 4th place. The other moves up into a podium position. You were saying at the start how we have a nice variety of car selections for this season, and it's 3 McLarens running in the top 5. So it's a good showing for the McLaren team. Obviously, all 3 of them are not part of the same team. Toussaint and Tiger, one team, and Piero teammates with Cameron Kaboom for this season, but unfortunately isn't here for today's race.
That is very true. However, it must be said, the BMW is leading. Still a very, very sizable gap there. And you've got Nap all on his own in 9th place. Massive gap behind him. Massive gap in front of him. It's a very lonely place. I guess he could just focus on his own, to be honest, and just not hit any of the walls, which is very easy to do around this track.
Yeah, maybe it's a good thing for Napula in his first GT race, kind of just to get used to the car, get used to the game. But what a track to try and get used to. Mount Panorama, a very technical and challenging circuit, especially in the middle sector between turns 10 and 18. The sequence of corners going down the mountain. As Piero getting a little bit of a snap through Forestdale, but actually might cost him a little bit of time to Toussaint behind.
Yeah, but he's still got Dutchy well in his sights there, and you got Toussaint just waiting patiently for an opportunity. And you have to say Tiger's doing exactly the same thing. He can see those 3 battling hard. If anyone makes a bit of a mistake, he can very easily pounce. And then I'm going to also be watching out for Tim, the flying fin, in 6th place. Got a nice gap between him and the car in front and behind. However, we all know how fast Tim is, and he could very easily catch up to the others in that wonderful livery, has to be said. And Jimmy doing well in 7th, got a bit of competition behind him, but it's still a solid place at the moment.
Yeah, the top 8, they might seem fairly separated, but they're not doing too badly for a long lap time, such as a track like Mount Panorama, 6.2 kilometers, I believe. And you're saying there, Tim in sixth place, a very, very fast driver, opting for the Subaru this season. Current manufacturer series champions are Subaru, so it's certainly not a bad choice of car for this season. But will the Challenger maybe impact its strengths? It's often a car that prefers high downforce circuits, technical tracks like Suzuka, but we've got a fair few high-speed tracks on this season's calendar, so he might struggle in those races, but Tim will certainly be making up the time on the McLarens through this middle sector, and look how close it is from Dutchy downwards. The top four very close to one another.
Exactly. Piero definitely applying the pressure on Dutchy. Dutchy's been in this position multiple times in front of someone else, just watching his mirrors and not making a mistake. He's pretty much like a robot, almost like, I would say like Michael Schumacher, but I think that's too much praise for him. But he's getting a bit squirmy there. But it's actually, oh dear, it's actually the drivers behind him, as Piero's got a 0.5 second penalty. Tiger's slipped up into fourth. We did say that he'd be sniffing for an opportunity, and he's already got one up into fourth place. And when Piero does his little slowdown, that's going to be another position. Look at that. Now he's up into third place. Very good start from him. And you got Zav back up into fourth place. Piero, a bit of a mistake there. It's, as you said earlier, it's that middle sector, very, very tricky. And look at that, Tim. After all that kerfuffle, look at that. Now he's not far behind the others. You can see Piero well in his sights, only probably 2 seconds behind him, and we're getting very juicy at the front.
Yeah, Piero hit the wall on the inside of turn 14, and having the decrease in speed, Toussaint couldn't go anywhere, was stuck behind the McLaren, and that opened the door for Tiger Assassin to gain 2 places from 5th place. Now finds himself running in a podium position, attacking Play Dutchy for what usually is the lead of the race. But this time around it's for 2nd place, as myself, going through turn 2 on those soft compound tyres, leads the Australian Grand Prix after the first 5 laps.
Oh, and Nuts spun! Oh, Nuts had an absolute oopsie. It's been an oopsie at a catastrophic level. I was actually about to say that he dropped down to 10th place because Dan was ahead of him, so I think he must have had a penalty. And I was literally just about to say, oh, Nap's down to 10th. Turn 1, boom, in the wall, and now he's last. And I did say Dan could creep into the top 10. He's up to 9, so good job from him. Now he's the one in some clear space, and Ben Roberts just quietly getting about his business. And Nap, well, it's a good thing that this isn't a couple of years ago where the damage was on strong, because he'd be carrying all of that to the pit stop window, probably all worn off by now. But even so, it's a massive mistake from him. Very unlucky there into turn 1.
Yeah, it's probably not what he'd be hoping for in his first race of the season, but still has 8 other races to show what he's truly capable of. And yes, his damage will have repaired after 30 seconds, having it being on light. With no safety cars, it doesn't really make sense for the damage to be on heavy, because one tap of the wall and that's effectively your race over, with no chance of getting back in it if you pick up heavy amounts of damage. Piero's penalty has allowed Tim to catch up, or a combination of Tim's pace and Piero's penalty have allowed the top 4 to become a top 5 minus the race leader, so could have a very nice battle on our hands for the podium places.
I'm also looking at the battle for 7th place, to be honest. Jimmy in the lone Toyota in a good position, but there's quite a bit of pressure behind him, and it has to be said, after 8th you've got a massive gap with Dan, massive gap with Ben Roberts, massive gap with Nap, but one mistake and it could all turn around again, it must be said. And Natty with a massive lead, doesn't have to worry about all that battling behind him, but there's a very, very interesting battle going on behind him with, as you said, Tim just lurking in the background. Very good, strong, very good pace from him. Not the best in qualifying, it must be said, but in the race he's definitely turned up.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what these guys are starting to do now is perhaps we're seeing them work together to save fuel. Let Natty burn through his fuel on the soft compound tyres, because what we've got to remember, I've got to pit for the medium tyres. Everyone else behind has to use the soft, or at least 2 different tyre compounds, but I don't think we'll be seeing the hards used today. So everyone from 2nd and below will be going a lot quicker towards the end of this race. so they can't exactly waste time battling, letting Natty pull away with a potentially first race win of the season.
More so just put up all the racing, but I just thought I'd have a little look to see what's going on, and Dutchy, as per usual, got a lot more fuel on board compared to Natty, must be said. And yeah, as you rightfully said, it looks like, oh geez, from second all the way down to sixth, pretty much have more or less the same lot of fuel. You got Natty just burnt way more up in front, and with the soft tyres, there's a lot more wear on him. So yeah, it looks like they're all working together. I was hoping a bit more battle would be going on, actually, but no, it looks like Pierro's having a bit of a look. Dives round the outside of Maynard up into fourth place. Very good showing in. Oh dear, it looks like Tim might be getting him as well. It looks like Maynard's had a bit of a problem there, and he's not going to go on the outside. No way, no way. Oh, he must have let him through, because that is... No, actually, no, he didn't have his indicators on. He might have a problem or something.
I can confirm Toussaint has had a technical issue during this part of the race. I think I can't remember if it's something disconnected, whether it be his headset or his wheel, but is going once again on the exit of turn one, hence how he conceded a position so easily to Tim, but that's dropped him back quite a bit in this race. You can see Piero going through turn two, Toussaint only just going through turn two now, so he's got time to claw back a 2:07 on the last lap, so 5 seconds lost at a minimum. Let's see how that impacts him come the end of the race.
Yeah, that's very unlucky for me. He's put his hazard, he's turned his hazards back off, so I assume he's okay now, and you know, he's a multi-champion, Premier Series champion as well, so he knows all well that it's a mouthful, not a sprint. Admittedly, the last time an F1 driver said that, they slightly threw away and back it, but we're going to ignore that at the moment, and let's see if we can make up some positions. Still a lot of time left in this race, and it's quite a long old season, so you will be a bit annoyed, but I know we can climb up and get a few more positions if need be. Look at that, Natty for a massive lead, but his tyres, Jesus! The amount of wear on those is just horrendous. It looks like Dutchy, out of the top few, has the least wear, so that'll be interesting to see this cat and mouse strategy.
I think the softs are estimated to last about 12 laps at this circuit. The mediums can do the rest. It should be an easy one stop at every race this season. Tyre wear down to ×3 and fuel consumption on ×2, and with the mandatory tyre rule being that drivers have to use 2 different tyre compounds during a race, those should be the only 2 tyres we see during a race, the mediums and the softs, unless there is the elements of rain to be added, but none for tonight's race. No rain.
That is a shame, because rain around this track would be absolutely brilliant, but you know what, fair enough, and no one's going to put on the hards because they are absolutely rubbish in this game. And it looks like 8th place had a bit of a wobble there. Also should mention he's also on the soft tyres, so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out at the end of the race. He's got good pace at the moment, a couple of seconds ahead of Dan. However, Dan's on the medium, so Dan could claw his way back up, showing decent pace right now. So it's all a long way to go in this. I see a couple more positions maybe changing as this race plans out. Oh, yeah, we've also cut to Natty. Looks, you've got a bit of front bumper damage there. You know, I'm going to cut away from that. We don't need to see that.
Yeah, let's ignore that. Oh, actually hitting the wall as well. Yeah, let's focus on that one.
Let's focus on that.
Actually hitting the wall on the exit of turn 8. Gets away with it though. No damage for him, but it just goes to show how much these drivers are pushing to try and maintain that gap to the race leader, whose damage has been repaired, so we can go back to giving myself the screen time I deserve. But Tiger is doing well to stick with Play Dutch, it has to be said. About maybe 8-9 tenths between the two. Piero is not too far behind them either. Tim seems to have dropped off a little bit, but is bringing Toussaint with him. Wolfie making his way through Forest Elbow now.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did say I wouldn't just hop on this and immediately start insulting Jimmy. I will be fair as the Buddhist monk and say that Jimmy's still in 7th place on the medium compound tyres in the total, which is a very, let's just say, polarizing car. You know, there's some people who race this and they've done very well. Some people have said it's, well, dog doo-doo, but, you know, a bit of a love or hate car. And, you know, he's on the right at the moment. We've got nothing really negative to say about that, but this Tiger and Dutchy, out of the two drivers on the mediums, leading the charge, it must be said. Pierre in a nice, comfortable fourth. Tim in a comfortable fifth. It looks like Maynard is catching up though on Tim very slowly. I'm just looking at the lap times. His last 2 lap times have been quicker than Tim, so I'm gonna keep an eye on that as the race just ekes a bit more into the middle stages. I think Maynard will be quite good on tyre wear as well, so that could be a 5th place maybe, at least.
I mean, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds. We don't know where Natty is in respect to these drivers behind. The gap between the softs and the mediums is about, I'd estimate, a second a lap, I think. So, whereas the race leader will be pitting around lap 11 or 12 because it's 23 laps, so will the medium runners. So, Natty's got to keep building up that gap to the car behind as much as he can. And then it's going to be attack from Dutchy, Tiger, Piero, Tim, and also Toussaint, the top 6, who are still fairly close to each other. It does have to be said. And Mount Panorama can cause drivers to have many mistakes, especially in that middle sector. One wrong move could see yourself in the barrier or facing the wrong way.
Definitely. I'm also having a look at the lap times. Apart from the last lap, which we're going to ignore, I see a lot of 2-minute 201s from Natty, so definitely doing what he wanted to do, which is build that lead up on the soft tyres. Interestingly though, you've got Dutchy, Tiger and Piero, all of them have just pretty much been in the 202s pretty much the entire time. You've got Tim, who's sort of creeping to 203s. Oh, and he pits! Okay, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Maybe on a 2-stop or something. 50% life in these tyres. Maynard's pace has also been very good, it must be said. But let's see what Tim's up to.
So there you have it, the first pit stop of the season, and it's the Flying Fin in off of the medium compound tyres. I'm guessing it's going to be for the softs. The undercut has been triggered to try and reduce that gap to Piero in 4th. Fuel goes in to the back of the Subaru, which should take him to the end of the race. And in and out for the Finnish driver. Did he keep it in the white lines? Yes, he did. No 3-second time penalty of him. Comes out ahead of the Scout Dan, who is still running in 9th place and has dropped off the back of Foreman's just a little bit. But remember, Dan is on the mediums, Foreman's on the soft, so Dan could have a good end to this race and finish inside the top 8, which wouldn't be a bad finish for him to start off the season.
Just realised we've only got 10 drivers left. Also, Nat, oh dear, it looks like he's, well, I'm not really sure if I can say this in a very political way. He's miles behind Dan. I mean, Dan's in the tricky section. Nat hasn't even crossed the start-finish line. I did notice there was a lot of damage up in sector 2 and 3, so I think he had another crash. And he's done a lap time of 2 minutes 30. Okay, well that explains why he's a lot slower than Dan. Dan's last lap time was a 2:06, just slightly on the grass there, but yeah, like I said before, doing a decent job there. He's in the top 10. And let's see. You know what? If anything, Nat, I appreciate you're still in the race. Unlike Ben Roberts, you haven't rage quitted. You're still in here. You're in the top 10 literally by default. So I hope he sticks around to the end.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Yes, unfortunately, Ben Roberts has retired from the first round of the season. Current Weekend League Drivers Champion won't finish the first race of the season here at Mount Panorama, meaning that there are only 10 drivers left in this race. So everyone who finishes from here on in will score points. 20 points for the race leader, 1 for 10th, as Toussaint pulls into the pits and reacting to Tim's undercut.
Very interesting there. Wasn't expecting that. It makes sense. Also, Piero's slowly been clawing his way back up to Tiger. I did say before there'd been the 202s, but Tiger and Dutch have been the late 202s, 208s, 205s. Piero's last lap was a 202 dead, so he's been, as Tiger's been kicking in, he's just been catching up to the second, third place drivers ever so slowly. Let's see where Tim ends up. Oh, just behind Tim. Okay, Zav's just behind Tim. Down to 8th place. Let's see how this ends up. Is he going to go for a move? No. Fair enough. He's going to stick behind him for a little bit longer.
So it appears that the undercut hasn't really been as effective as Tim probably would have wanted it to have been. He's hoping to use the advantage of those fresh soft compound tyres to extend his gap to 2 cents behind, but if anything 2 cents got a little bit closer and is on the fresher, softer compound of tyre. So that's worked out really nicely for him. How many more laps will the likes of Dutchy, Tiger and Piero stay out, or will they react to this undercut attempt from these two drivers? You can see they're going down the diff, and now top 4 going down the back straight approaching turn 20, so there is still a bit of a gap, but the longer they stay out... Hang on, this is a theory that I've been thinking of for so many times, and I don't know how it works. It just really confuses me, because you think of an undercut, Tiger pulls into the pits, you think of an undercut as going into the pits, fresh tyres, but you have to put in a little bit more fuel to get to the end of the race. But the longer you stay out, the less fuel you have and the less laps there are left. So I don't think the fuel is actually an equation here.
No, I don't think so. It looks like Jimmy's also coming to the pitch. It's a bit of a weird one. You would think, oh, and Jimmy's bottled that.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? Fair enough. That pit lane is very tricky, but that was quite funny. I wasn't expecting that. Oh, my days. But yeah. Oh, and Fortman's also pitting as well. 3 of them jumped in at the same time, except he was on the soft, so he's going to have to jump into the mediums. Let's see how that goes. Down up into 7th because he hasn't pitted yet. Good job from him, and very interesting what's going to happen next. Well, yeah, what were you saying, Natty?
I can't remember. Something about the fuel, but it doesn't really matter. It's just boring stuff that the viewers don't need to hear me thinking out loud. Anyway, the undercut attempt from Tim and Toussaint. It's kind of hard to tell without the deltas if that's been effective. We just have to go based on looking at the map. I would say it's probably brought them a little bit closer. In theory, it should have, but Tiger pulling into the pits, as you said, on the last lap, in 4th place, still behind, well, now behind Piero, who stays out for another lap. And Wolfie with a 3.5 second time penalty for cutting the corner going into the pits, and in doing so going over the white lines, hence the collection of 3.5 seconds worth of time penalties, which isn't going to do his race any favours in terms of trying to claw back up to the top 6. Speaking of, your race leader pulls over to the left hand side of the circuit and into pit lane off of a very worn set of soft compound tyres. His teammate Dutchy follows him in, and Piero does as well. But something a little bit concerning, Aston, is the percentage of fuel left in the top 3's cars.
Yeah, it looks like Dutchy's been doing Dutchy things, and he's been saving a lot of fuel, saved even more than Piero. So it looks like you're going to be in the pit lane for a while longer. But you know what? To be fair, you needed to go as fast as you could on the softs. Go like the absolute clappers. You have done that at the expense of your fuel load. Come out the pits first. That's all good. Dutchy only 3 seconds behind, so he's definitely clawed back some time just simply by the fact that he saved some fuel. Tiger comes out. Oh, and Piero's got a 3-second penalty there. Quite harsh that for crossing the line, but yeah, that's actually is very harsh to be fair. And Tim's quite a long way back actually from the leading 4. It's quite a massive gap there. I thought because he did the undercut he might have closed up a bit, but I guess just the others outlaps were just that strong, I guess.
Yeah,
down to the pits as well.
Something else to consider, Tiger had Dutchy slipstream for the first half of the race, so he was always being pulled along by the Dutchman. Unfortunately, Piero, with picking up a 3-second time penalty, I wish we could reduce the time. I would at least have maybe a second or a second and a half, but I think 3 seconds is really harsh for going over the white line. But then I do want to keep it on to avoid pit lane, white line dramas. So, yeah, that is unfortunate for Piero. That could drop him closer to the likes of Tim and Toussaint, so it could be really interesting to see where they filter out after Piero serves his penalty.
Exactly, and also Dan came out in 9th. Oh, and Fortmans has also got a penalty, half-second penalty, and not only that, good job Dan. He's in 9th place on the soft compound tyres. He's got a tyre advantage compared to the guy in front, and he hasn't got a penalty. So
he's going for it.
What's he gonna do there? Oh, he just dives. Fair enough. As
Round
you do,
the outside.
Very good work there from Dan. Nap still going strong. Very impressive. Good start to his racing in the and he just hit the wall.
Aston with his first commentator's curse of the season.
That's funny.
As Tim gets ahead of Piero after serving that 3.5-second time penalty and filters in between Tim and Toussaint. So we've got 3 cars fighting for 4th place, whilst also trying to push for the top 3.
Yeah, I have to say the top 3 have just been in league of their own. Now, by far, the fastest driver on the soft compound tyres.
Thank you.
Dutchy and Tiger, you're welcome. Fastest on the mediums. And they've just absolutely blown away. It's pretty much like a free group thing. You've got a battle for the leads, and you've got a battle for 4th. There's a little gaggle there of Zav, Piero and Tim, who are also bloody fast drivers, but just round this track just have not had the collective speed and the consistency and the luck, it must be said, compared to the top 3. Piero with his penalties, Maynard with his technical issues as well, which is very unlucky, and Tim's he's been fast, but just not quite as fast as the others, but still decent showing from him. You've got Jimmy in a very, very lonely 7th place. Don't think he'll have any troubles. Dan about 6 seconds behind on the same compound of tyres, so pretty much on a lonely 8th as well, which is good. That means they could just focus on what they're doing. Actually has to be said, from 7th to last, everyone's just in their group. Oh, Nap, no, he's had another oopsie at the start-finish straight. Oh, I would have loved to have seen what happened there. You know what?
So my best guess would be probably going a little bit wide at the final corner and dipping the wheel onto the grass.
Every time I want to say something nice about Nap, he just has a crash. So maybe if I just ignore him, he won't have another crash. That's what I think is gonna work.
Let's go back up to the top of the pack, where we have the two teammates for this season, 1 and 2, starting lap 15 of 23. Dutchy on a fresh set of softs, Natty on a fresh set of mediums, and I think we might see an easy pass from Play Dutchy going in towards turn 2. We're going to ride on board with the Mercedes just so we can see the closing speed of the German manufacturer. Pulls over to the left-hand side of the circuit. And, the front 2 side by side, but on a compound different tyre. I think this should be an easy pass for Play Dutchy. Natty keeps his foot in, but Play Dutchy round the outside, up into the lead of the race, where he so often is. And maybe we might see Natty trying to hold up Tiger Assassin to stop his pursuit of another race win here at this circuit.
I have to say, very good time management from Dutchy. I'm very unlucky, Natty. You just had turn a little bit wide, just slightly compromise your exit out of turn 1. And that's all Dutchy needed to just take the lead. I was going to think of a metaphor, but it just collapsed in my mind. So I was like, you know what? Let me just say Dutchy go fast, and we'll just leave it as that.
Speaking of going fast and also going slow, if you look at the lap times between Natty and Dutchy, more specifically the pit lane lap times, Dutchy a 2-minute 11.7, myself 2-minute 16.7. So that was 5 seconds lost in the pit lane, putting in the extra 10 litres of fuel required to get this BMW to the end of the race.
It's just one of those things, really. When you're in slipstream, when you're just slightly turning down the fuel mix, you could just save a tenth. You lose a tenth or two in terms of outright pace from saving fuel, but you just gain so much back in the pit lane. Just 5 seconds and boom. If it wasn't a 5-second deficit, it would have taken Dutchy much longer to get there. And by then his softs might have burnt out, but just one of those things. That is why Dutchy almost always ends up at the front. It's just little things like that. Always making the most of an opportunity, not always pushing, knowing when to hold back, and absolutely going for it when necessary. However, Tiger in 3rd place, top 10, fastest lap time in a Toyota Tundra around this track. He's also doing very well in third place. Looks like he's very close, maybe a lap or two away from trying to take second place. And you've got the little fourth place Gavra as well, which is very much hotting up there. 3 absolutely blisteringly fast drivers, both in Gran Turismo and in F1. Maynard, oh look at that, purple sector 1. This could be a cheeky fastest lap.
Fastest lap currently a 2-minute 1.0 held by myself, so it will be interesting to see how close these drivers get to that lap time with lower fuel.
No, Nap's absolutely lost it. Oh no, oh that is an absolute oops-a-daisy. That was actually horrific. You know what, he's still going. Come on, Nap, please, you can do this. Also, he might get lapped. I just realised. Because all in the same, yeah, he's probably going to get lapped. But you know what? He's doing a good job. He hasn't quit. He's marching through like an absolute champ. He's got a little bit of bodywork damage, but I think we can just ignore that for now.
You've got to give credit where credit's due, and it is his first race in GT, and he's not giving up despite running in last position. It just feels like every time you spectate the man, he's either backwards or in the barrier. So
yeah, so I'm going to focus on someone else. Maybe hypothetically, if I just see what Jimmy's up to, maybe he'll have another crash.
You're like the camera from Cars 2, just focusing on someone, and then they're blown up.
Spectating. You know what? If I spectate Dutchy, does that mean he'll also be wiped out? Just asking hypothetically. I'm gonna see what Dutchy's doing. Let's see if he makes a mistake. I'm not gonna focus on that anymore because it's not fair on him. We don't want his only screen time to just be him spinning out. I can't do that to him.
Lap 17 of 23. Tiger Assassin putting Natty under increasing pressure. 2-minute 1.8 is the Brits' last lap time on those soft compound tyres. Natty about 8/10 slower on those mediums, but still setting decent sector 1 times, 19.0. Matching the lap times he's been doing on the softs. The wind has changed ever so slightly, so it's a tailwind in towards turn 2. Will help those sector 1 times. But maybe we might see Natty slow down a little bit through this middle sector, except that Tiger will get past sooner rather than later, and just increase that gap in front to play Dutchy to help out the team.
Maybe. Also, I just want to point out, Nat isn't crashed, don't worry. I'm just pointing out he's come in, put on enough set of the soft compound tyres, so maybe he can light up the timing board, maybe even get a fastest lap here and end on a high. But yeah, good job, top 10 on your debut. Not a lot of drivers can say that. Let's just see how this goes.
Yes, as long as he finishes, it will be points on debut.
And look at that, Natty just holding up Tiger Assassin there. Good teamwork right there. It's like, I can't think of the metaphor, but you know what? It's very good. You know what? This teamwork stuff is almost as good as me and you in the Super League.
Exactly.
Almost that level of just brain cell sharing. If you could just hold up Tiger, that would be good for Dutchy. However, Tiger's just sailed through there. Great move from him. Natty didn't fight too much. Very sensible there. He's got a tyre disadvantage. He did hold him up for a bit. And to be fair, I think he may have held up Tiger just enough to make sure that Dutchy can secure yet another win on this game. This man is almost unstoppable at times, and thanks to the work of Natty, this could be yet another win. I think when the prize money is handed out, I think some of that should go to you for holding up Tiger Assassin.
Yeah, if it doesn't, I'll make sure of it.
Well. Oh yeah, definitely. That paycheck, half that paycheck needs to be split to you. The battle for fourth is also getting very juicy as well, must be said.
Yes, Tim weaving to break the slipstream from Toussaint behind, going up the hill in towards turn 2. The Brit not close enough to make a move, but now what they've got to consider is Natty's not too far up the road, is in Tiger's slipstream, but for how much longer Tiger will be trying to pull away to allow his teammate to close in on the battle for the final spot on the podium. It might not seem like a very interesting race now in terms of on-track overtaking. We've got a three-way fight for fourth place, but we're playing the long game here, as often happens in this league. The drivers from 4th, 5th and 6th on the faster soft compound tyre, closing down Natty on medium tyres. The tyre difference should be about 8 to 1.2 seconds a lap, and they're closing in fast.
It must be said, thanks you're somewhat tyre saved on the softs, and you pitting later than Tim, your tyres have got much less wear than Tim's. So yes, in theory, Tim has got a tyre advantage, but your tyre's in so much better shape. If you could just hold on for another like 10 minutes, I think Tim's might die. Also, it's going back to Tim and the weaving. To be fair, that car, probably should have mentioned that, it's not too good in the straight, so he needs to do all he can in the last sector and first sector, and he can just easily hold it off in the middle sector there. But you can see Xavier Maynard, multi GT champion, is sniffing opportunity. You got Piero, who is insanely fast, like Alain Prost, but in Gran Turismo. You know full well if an opportunity turns up, he is going to be steaming through into fourth place. And I'm going to be checking the gap between Natty and Tim. Let's see if we can catch up on you or not.
Yeah, we can.
Similar lap times.
We can roughly work out the deltas by looking at the current lap time. Natty just crossing 17, 18, 19 seconds, and Tim on 14, 15. So there's about 5 seconds between the two. Here comes Toussaint. Tim's gone defensive in the run down towards turn 2. Toussaint brakes later, swoops round the outside, a little bit of contact between the two. Tim keeps the front bumper in. They're side by side through the technical, tight, twisty middle sector. Tim backs out, Toussaint with the inside. Oh, but Tim's round wide, just keeps it within the white lines.
Oh, Piero had a little look there, backed out, sensible driving. Very clean racing from all three of them. Piero didn't steam onto the inside. Tim and Zav gave each other just about enough room there. Very fair race between these three professional drivers. And oh, look at that, Tim. Now the Subaru is very good in the tight twisty section, so this explains why Tim is all over the back of Zav right now. However, when we get back to the straights, Maynard will have an advantage in that McLaren in terms of straight line, and that also means Piero could have a little look here. This is very, very interesting. But all this battling is just preventing them from catching up to Natty. Looks like he might be able to secure third place. As you said, they were 7-8 tenths quicker than you per lap, but thanks to all this kerfuffle, I think that's kind of stalled out, at least for this lap at least.
Here goes Piero side by side with Tim. The power of that Subaru not as quick as that of the McLaren, down towards turn 21, sorry, I think. And there you go, Piero up into 5th place, Tim losing 2 positions in 1 lap from 4th to 6th, and it's now Toussaint leading the charge on his Premier Series rival. You've mentioned this a couple of times with the championships that drivers have won, but the top 7 have all won a Gavra championship in some form or another. And the reigning champion Bod Evil's not even here tonight, so that just goes to show the level of talents we've got on this grid fighting for the top spaces.
Couldn't agree more there. It says a lot when out of the 10 drivers, 7 of them have won some form of Gavra racing championship, not just race. And it's looking very interesting as it looks like, unfortunately, Tim's undercut. It was a very good idea, but he's not really sure it's playing. I didn't really get much of advantage on his outlap, and he's just got much more significant tyre wear compared to the others around him, and he's lacking straight line speed. And it's just, he's been absolutely cooked like a roast turkey, and he's now down to 6th place.
Yeah, I think his soft tyres are starting to wear off, but fortunately for him, the natural grip that the Subaru produces through the corners should keep him within slipstream range of Piero in front. Look at this, you can see he's almost pushing the McLaren down the hill, which will keep him in touch going down the straight. So the time lost might not be too bad for him. The final lap might be a bit of a struggle though compared to the 2 McLarens in front.
Oh yeah, definitely. This could be quite tricky for Tim, but he's still there. He knows what he's doing. Not too far behind, and we'll have to see how this pans out the next couple of laps. And also have to say, Dutchy last 4 laps he's been in the 201s. Tiger's been in the ones for almost the same amount of time, except he did a 2-minute 2 last time round. Very good pace from him. Not quite the same level as Dutchy, but very good pace. He's just crossing the line now. Back in the 201, so pretty much almost the same kind of lap times as your race leader. So that proves that Tiger's got some very good pace around this track. And Natty in the 202s, then 203s, not too bad. But you've got Maynard dipping into 201s that last time round once he's gotten past Tim. So it's good lap times from both of them, but Maynard is definitely closing in on that third place.
I didn't quite catch it on camera, but I saw the proximity arrow of Play Dutchy have a bit of a wobble on the exit of turn 2. That's going to cost him time to Tiger Assassin, who sees the opportunity to win this race, getting closer and closer, although the lap time is running out. 21 out of 23, only 2 laps to go, one more after that. And Natty in third place. Can he keep it on those medium tyres? Piero and Toussaint are closing in quickly. Tim's just dropped off the back of Piero and might have to settle for a 6th place. We'll just have to see how events unfold in the final couple of laps here. If you remember 2 seasons ago, the last time we went to this track, there were 2 crashes in the final 3 laps. So anything can still happen. Dutchy might not win.
Oh, look at that, Dan. Sorry to cut you off there, but it looks like Dan is having a bit of a look on Jimmy. Oh, and he's at the barrier. Oh dear, Dan. You know what? You've still got opportunities. I don't know what's going on there, but it just looks like in the last couple of laps, Jimmy's just not quite been as quick. Maybe he doesn't like this track as much as Dan does, but Dan's been having some very impressive lap times, and it looks like Dan's been able to try again. So I'm going to very much be looking out for that. Also, damn it! I was gonna say that was having some decent lap times. He's got a half a second penalty. But before he did that, he did a 205, which is quicker than the driver in front of him. So you know what? His pace has been getting better, and I'm sure in the next couple of rounds he'll be even more formidable.
Dan sliding his way down the dipper, brushing the wall on the outside in his battle for 7th place with one of your greatest rivals, your former teammate against championship deciding rivals for 7th place. A bit of a gap though between Wolfie and the car in front. Tim, Piero and Toussaint in 6th, 5th and 4th place respectively. Piero actually going purple to the first sector on the penultimate lap, all over the back of Toussaint. And when does it become the thought for Piero that it's like, right, we might not catch Natty, do I want to go for this and get myself 4th place?
Mentioned Dutchy had a little problem, and it looks like the timing board agrees with you. He lost a second that last time round, so definitely had a bit of a wobble. Unfortunately, we were not able to capture that, but you know what, maybe next time. And you know what, it looks like on the last lap, Xavier only caught up by half a second compared to Natty, and it's just not quite enough. There's only 2 laps to go. Looks like Natty should be able to hold on, as you said. Looks like Pierre was thinking, okay, I'm not sure we're going to be able to catch up to Natty. Maybe I should just attack the person directly in front of me instead and try and get a 4th place. Tim got quite close there in a solid 6th. And you've got Jimmy in 7th. Dan with slightly better tyres, must be said as well. Let's see if we can catch up to 7th. We've got Fortman's in 9th. Very quiet race from him. Look at him on the arrow. Look at him. Look at his arrow on the track. Just all on his own. But you know what? Again, you can just pick up the points. No dramas. And you got now. Finally, I cut to him, and there's no penalty, and there's no crashes. And you know what? It looks like he's going to make it to the end. Very good job there from that.
It is his first race and is still going to score a point. Play Dutchy, Tiger start the final lap of this race in 1 and P2. Tiger going through turn 1. The final 6.2 kilometres here at the season opener of Mount Panorama. Dutchy's on course to win the first race of the season. Tiger's almost set for second, but it's the final position on the podium and it's left yet to be decided. Can Natty hold on for one more lap? Toussaint and Piero closing in at a rapid rate of knots. Is Piero going to go for it on his fellow McLaren driver? Looks for it on the inside, but isn't close enough to go for the move. Can Natty hold on?
Oh, it's getting very interesting at the moment. You've got 2 McLarens steamrolling their way up to Natty. it's going to be a three-way fight for third. You've got 2 McLarens versus BMW, 2 soft runners versus 1 medium runner. You have to say the Natty's mediums are looking fairly decent, to be fair. So I'm not sure the tyre raw performance advantage is quite as massive as it was earlier on. Zav and Pierre looking a bit squirmy. I still think Natty might just be able to hold out on this.
They have been pushing on those softs, and Toussaint's gone deep and he's in the wall. He's on the grass. Piero goes through. Here comes Tim. Stuck behind the McLaren. He's got nowhere to go. This tight is so tight. Tim couldn't quite find a way past the McLaren, but is that the lifeline Natty needs to finish on the podium here at this season opener?
You keep an eye on that. I'm going to keep an eye on Dan as he's trying once again to pounce on Jimmy. He might be able to get he might be able to make an opportunity. As we see Dutchy in the last few corners, it's been a very good race. He's not really made any mistakes. Made one, but unfortunately we couldn't pick up on camera.
Here comes Tim.
Did very well a tyre saving.
Sorry to interrupt you, Tim. Toussaint side by side. Toussaint's gone deep. He's off, but he's in the grass.
Oh, it's gone wide. No
Toussaint's gone to cut the grass as Dutchy wins the Australian Grand Prix. Oh, that's a big disappointment for Toussaint, but his teammate Tiger Assassin from 5th to 2nd place finished on the podium. Natty just ahead of Piero in 4th place. Tim across the line in 5th, and disappointment at the end for Toussaint.
That's so unlucky. You know what? The battle for 7th place hasn't quite ended. I think Jimmy might be able to hold on to this, but, and this is a big but, Dan is not far behind. He's within slipstream range. Can he apply pressure like Tim did to Zav and capture a position in the final sector of this race? It's looking unlikely, but you never know. Let's see if Jimmy cracks under pressure. I think it's unlikely, but Dan's definitely caught up. Is he going to just harpoon it into the last corner like Dutchy did a few seasons ago? I don't think so. Go on, Dutchy. No, Dan, just dive bomb. He didn't dive bomb. He didn't wipe out Jimmy. I'm disappointed. And that means Dan does not get 7th place. Knapp crossed the line. It was a lap down, but he did make it to the end. Fastest lap time, a 2:04. Very good job from him. And we're seeing the last person in another BMW in a quiet 9th place, it must be said.
Yeah, Fortmans hasn't had much to worry about during this race. Just getting some miles under his belt, getting used to the car, and used to what he could be up against this season. All the drivers are here for tonight's race. Nearly has a wobble through the final corner. Has a big wobble, actually.
Wait,
and
did he cross the line?
Not yet. Hang on.
Oh,
he's nearly there.
Waiting.
And across the line in 9th place, rather dramatically.
Jesus.
So then we'll quickly go through the grid from back to front. Napier in his debut finishes in 10th place. Fortmans eventually finished in 9th. Dan couldn't quite get Wolfie, who finished in 8th and 7th place. Toussaint was set for a podium but finds himself in 6th place. Tim in 5th. After that last lap overtake, Piero just missed out on a podium place. One more lap and I think he might have had it, but your top 3 are Natty, myself, Tiger Assassin in 2nd, and your race leader Play Dutchy. And whilst you're in the commentary box, Ashton, who is your driver of the day for this race?
Do you know what? I think driver of the day, I'm going to have to give it to Natty. He gave us that TV coverage by going on the softs, being different, steamrolling up into 1st place, built big lead, and then also helped his teammates by backing up Tiger so that Dutchy could get the win. So not only did he have the most pace in the first half, but it was very much being a nice supportive driver in the second half once Dutchy got past. You know what? No, I changed my mind. Nap gets driver of the day. Right, I'm going to allow him. It's been a bit unlucky in terms of every time we cut to him, he's had an issue. So, I'm going to give it to Nap. Great job, man. Got points in your debut race.
There you go. Dutchy, the race winner. Napular, driver of the day. We'll get race photos of both cars here at the end. Cameron Kaboo in the chat saying, nice to see a dynamic duo back in the commentary box. Thank you for the stream, as usual. No worries, Cameron. Your Haas teammates are here to provide all the action and entertainment, whether it be on the track, in the barriers, or in the commentary box.
We absolutely dominated the midfield back in the Haas days. And now Paul de Resta, Martin Brundle are here to dominate the commentary booth. And you know what? That was a good race. Good race. It was a very tricky course. It caught up pretty much everyone in one way or another. And I have to say that pit entry was very difficult for a couple of drivers. Good scenery as well, it must be said. And yeah, it was a very enjoyable race from my end.
Yeah, a couple of drivers getting caught out in the pit lane, and that brings to an end the opening round of the season. That Panorama always provides action in one way or another, and we certainly got it at the end once again. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you Aston for joining me in the commentary box. It's been
a pleasure,
a privilege as always. Join us next week, same time. Back now, I can't say same time, same place, because I don't know when this will be streamed. Hopefully Sunday or Monday. But what can be guaranteed, it will be at Deep Forest Raceway in Switzerland, and it will be a very good race. Thank you all for watching. I've been X90 G, and unless Aston has any further comments, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye as well. I'm all good.